All right, we are live again, live and thrive. Yeah.
Happy Valentine.
Yes, happy Valentine's Day, ladies and gents, to everybody who's tuning in with us today. We are on day 2 of our Overcoming Anxiety workshop event that we have with Miss Stephanie. And man, day 1 was amazing. You want to do, well, first of all, for the people that don't know me and you all, my name is Ashley Jackson Thompson, and I am the owner of Timeless Dream Events. We cater to the terminally and chronically ill and their loved ones. Hey, Mama J. And we, whether it's birthday, wedding, showers, celebration of life, we are here to plan it for you. And I want to throw the ball to Miss Miriam.
Hello, y'all. Happy Valentine again. Hope y'all enjoying a great morning, afternoon, evening. My name is Miriam Boldewijn, and I'm the owner and founder of Caregiver 2.0 6-week online live program. I've been a caregiver for more than 20 years to my husband and my brother. And because of my experience, I have the pleasure and the privilege to guide you.
Awesome. Thank you. Stephanie.
Good morning. No, afternoon, everyone.
Well, it could be morning for some.
This is true. It could be morning. So, hey, and happy Sunday. So excited to be back here for day 2. My name is Stephanie Lora Bearce, and I'm an anxiety and empowerment coach, Reiki master, and speaker. And I'm so happy to be here this weekend contributing to this conversation and talking about all things anxiety, getting into more of a power place around where anxiety pops up in your life. And I'm so thrilled for today's conversation.
Yes, I'm so excited. And right before we, jumped on here, I was telling these lovely ladies that my grandmother called me after our day 1 session to share a quote with me that one of her neighbors had given her, and she has it pasted on her refrigerator. So Nana, if you're listening, this one is for you. And I am going to keep this on my phone for all time, and I'll type it in the comments too. But the quote says, "Things turn out best for those who do their best with the way things turn out."
Oh, I love it.
I like that.
So, how I brought up yesterday about, the whole controlling aspect, getting over the fact that I can't control everything. Watching your attitude with the things that you can't control. That's what I get from this quote. And I'll put it in the comments as well so that you guys can write it down. Oh, hi, Sanja. That's my business coach. She's always supporting me. All right.
Hi, Tanya.
So yeah, I just wanted to kick off the day 2 with that quote. Again, thank you, Nana, for sending that my way. And I'll let you take the ball, Stephanie.
Yeah.
What we going to talk about today?
I love that quote first off, and I feel like it really did just go so in line with what we talked about yesterday. And Absolutely. If anyone is hopping on today for the first time, I really encourage you to check out yesterday's conversation as well. Talked about a lot of great things that are really going to build into today's. So it is Valentine's Day, which is, such a commercialized holiday, and I understand that, but I love and preach self-love and self-care so much that I love taking Valentine's Day as an opportunity to remind women everywhere about their self-love and their self-care. And so that's going to be part of what we are going to talk about today, how self-care actually is such a healing Miriam, would you mind muting your
oh yeah
thing? Thank you. Sorry. I totally own my own shortcomings. I talked about this yesterday. I have this weird executive functioning thing. When there's stuff in the background, my brain just goes by. So anyway, we're talking about self-care, self-love, self-worth, the self-talk that we started talking about yesterday, and just how important that is to be really aware of that. And we're going to be going deep into a boundaries conversation, because this goes with every single one of those things, and is one that, specifically, not specifically, but tends to pop up more for women, tends to pop up a lot more for caregivers. And so any of you who are caregiving women, I'm sure, have dealt with things at times where, boundaries were necessary or lacking, or sometimes, honestly, until we're able to really have this conversation, for so many people, it's just boundaries are non-existent, because making yourself the priority in your own life and setting boundaries and these things, these aren't really part of the societal conversation. Less than, I was just having this conversation on a group call last week with some of my clients about how even less than 100 years ago, women had a very, very different role in society, in the home, in their expectations than we do today. And in a lot of places, those older, outdated expectations are still taught. Sometimes it's in a very subtle way of just kind of being shown from grandmother to mother to daughter, the way that a mother or wife kind of functions in the house. Sometimes it's flat out, jokes of like, get back in the kitchen, go make me a sandwich, like that, that are made that are just very inappropriate. So, we're battling against a lot of societal norms, a lot of, and those are on top of the things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So as a caregiver, you're in a position where you are responsible for whoever it is in your life and whatever the situation is that you are taking care of someone for. And so I'm sure, and I've had conversations with Miriam and Ashley and a few other people in the past, that it can often feel at times, and I would love to hear from the two of you, your experience with this, that, that you're not really able to take time for yourself, that sometimes it feels selfish to take time for yourself. And yeah, I saw Ashley with the, why don't you come talk about that, Ashley? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
You know what? Miriam tells this so well. I'm going to throw that to Miriam. Miriam, I want you to say what you always say when we talk about our lack of self-love when it comes to caregiving.
You mean the cape?
Yep, that cape. We need to burn it.
Yes. Okay. Ashley and I always thought that we were superheroes. Superheroes don't cry. Superheroes can do anything. They can take care of their loved ones, and they can get the groceries. They can be the driver. They can be the cook. They can be the cleaner. Everything. And superheroes don't cry, like I said before. But this superhero, she cried. She cried a lot when she got a question, Miriam, how are you doing? And I was mad at myself because I thought it was selfish when I took care of myself. And I had to take off that cape at a certain point and set my boundaries. So I'm so happy, Stephanie, that you brought this up, because I can totally understand. I know what it's like when you feel like a superhero and act like a superhero.
Yeah. And, it's that projection that we put on ourselves. Like when you said superheroes don't cry, superheroes don't get tired, they can do all the things and show up for all the things and take care of the whole life. And that's something that, that cape that you're talking about, that's something that we've draped over our own shoulders. That's an understanding that we have projected on ourselves. That might not even be the understanding of, or the expectation of the other people in your life. But, you know, a lot of times our brain will construct this, okay, well, I have to do this and it has to look like this. And then we have to go over here and do this. And there was a story actually that you had shared in conversation I think it was on our last, not yesterday, but the previous call that we had done, where one of the people you're connected with was able to change her perspective about something. And this is such an interesting thing that the brain does, right? We tend to think, okay, it has to look like this and I have to do it like this. And so any other option outside of that box just doesn't exist. And I think in this case, it was something about groceries. And which is so funny because so I actually work as an Instacart delivery driver on the side. It gets me out of my house. It, you know, helps with, especially with the pandemic this year, with the way my business suffered. It was really awesome to be able to make a little money, help some people who couldn't leave the house. And so I obviously knew about Instacart. Some people don't know that there are places that will deliver your groceries. There are places that will, take care of things for you. And this is part of what I was saying yesterday with you can't beat yourself up for what you didn't know when you didn't know it, because sometimes we just don't know things. and then when we do, it seems like, oh my God, well, why haven't I been doing this forever? And in this particular case, I remember you talking about how someone was, really overwhelmed and didn't know how they were going to fit everything in. And then finding out about this, this other option that was outside of the box of what they had perceived as what was possible changed the entire game for them. And this happens so often when we put that cape on. We think, okay, well, this is how it looks. So this is how it must be done. So this is how I have to do it. And we don't take a step back and look at other possibilities. Like, what are ways in which I could set some time boundaries, some conversation boundaries, that I could employ or bring in outside options to be able to make my life a little bit easier, because we get into this pattern. And I really want to challenge anyone who's listening today to take a look at your pattern. Take a look at the things that, what's in that box for you. If you are putting on that cape still, what are some of the things that you are owning that if you take a step back and ask yourself, why am I owning this? That might be a conversation that needs to be had with yourself. When we start to question, why do I think this way? Why have I decided that I must do this? Why is it being done this way? And it can be really eye-opening and also kind of triggering sometimes when you think like, oh my God, why haven't I been doing this for the last 2 years? It could have been so different. Like, again, just like I said yesterday, when we realize things about ourselves, the first thing that we tend to do is beat ourselves up. So we're going to take that mental baseball bat and put it down, because we're not here to do that right now. We're not shaming. We're not self-judging. We're not doing any of that. And I really, really want to challenge anyone listening today to take half a step back and look at some of the things within your day that are causing you a lot of stress, that are spiking your anxiety, that I call them energy leaks in the work that I do. So things that are causing energy leaks from your body that literally just suck the life out of you on any level. And sometimes maybe it's a certain phone call you have to make. Maybe it's a person you have to interact with. Totally happens. Yup. And so
that is a huge stressor for me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please share.
That just really spoke to me. That is a huge stressor for me. A person, because I know that this person is so draining. And it's like you psych your mind out, and it's literally sucks your energy, because that person you're going to have to talk to is going to suck your energy. So it's like you're already zapped before you even do the thing.
Yes. That's part of that anxiety foundation we were talking about yesterday. Like, those are the little things that, in the hours beforehand of having to do something, spike up your anxiety or your stress before it's even there. And yeah, an energy leak can be a person. It can be a place.
And I was just going to say too, a place, because, before I found my purpose and such, I, worked for a company that I came to despise, heavily despise.
I
And
hear that.
it manifested itself physically for me. And every time I would pull into the parking lot, I would literally be late every day. I would be in the parking lot, but I would literally be late walking into the building because I would just be sitting there in my car like, do I really need this job? And I'm like, oh wait, I got bills. And then that would give me all kinds of other anxiety.
Oh,
But people, places, things. I mean, I'm you're talking to my heart this morning for sure.
yeah. Hearing you just describe that brought me back to when I felt the same way about my old job and my old career before starting my business as well. When you said you're like, I would be there, but I'd be late walking into the building, I was like, oh God, it's like you're in my head and my heart and my car right there. Because that's what happens when these places just become something that suck the life out of you. Yeah.
It's
And
very
also
true.
Also the idea that you have 1,000 things to do. That was my trigger. Like, oh, I have to do this tomorrow. I have to do this, that. Oh, so much. And then I would walk into the kitchen and what am I here for? I totally forgot.
There's anxiety and memory and focus issues. Yep. Yeah. Ashley, you're muted. Oh, I saw you talking, but you were muted. I didn't realize.
Oh no, I'm just in the choir right now. I said that is so true.
Yep. Absolutely. And so little things like that, because I actually get that question a lot. Like, what if my anxiety, like my energy leak is just that massive feeling of overwhelm? Like you can't actually pinpoint necessarily one thing that it is, but it's that list of 1,000 things you have to do, like you just said, Miriam. And my favorite tidbit for that, because especially those are the kind of things that are going to keep, wake you up at 2:00 in the morning, like we talked about yesterday. And, because you go to bed, maybe you crash because your body's physically exhausted, but then your brain wakes you up in the middle of the night because the anxiety and the overwhelm takes over, which then, of course, we know just spirals out into burnout and so much more that happens on the physical realm. But for those sort of things, doing a brain dump at night before you go to bed, having, whether it's, a notebook or a sticky note or a tiny notebook next to your bed, especially if you notice that it does happen a lot at night or you wake up in the middle of the night anxious about things, set like a 3 or 5 minute timer before wrapping up your day and jot down everything that's rolling around inside that beautiful little brain of yours and get it out. Get it out, get it out, get it out. Because anxiety thrives when we let things just stay all closed up and closeted, ricocheting off of each other inside of our brain.
Can I show you?
I do want to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miriam.
Yes. There you go. Love it.
I love it. It really clears my mind.
I wanted to pose this question this is actually my mother-in-law, Sharon. She is asked, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mama Sharon, but I believe she's asking, memories wake you up? Like she's having a lot of memories of my father-in-law who just recently passed, and I'm sure that's probably what she's thinking is, does that work into anxiety and such? Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Mama Sharon, but I'm pretty sure that's what she means. Can you talk a little bit on that? Like how to maybe work through some of that?
When the memories pop up and when those become overwhelming? Absolutely. The basis of my number one suggestion for that is also speak them, share them out loud. When we let them, it's the same thing with anything else in our brain that becomes overwhelming or that anxiety that goes up in there. The longer we stay quiet about it, the more intense it can become. And so if you don't have anyone around to share verbally to, writing down and journaling. I know, Miriam, that journaling is one of your favorite things to do. We've talked about that before. And so writing it down, to get it out, sharing with a friend or a family member this memory that you have, because not only does it help express what's going on, because going through those memories coming up, it's part of the grieving process as well.
Yes.
And this can also happen when maybe you haven't actually lost the person, and it's memories of events that were very traumatic, or things that you've gone through in your journey or in your caregiving experience with the person that you're with. I'm sure there have been days that everybody could probably think of that were very highly emotional, that maybe still come up every once in a while. And so we take the power away from those overwhelming memories, from those overstimulating moments, from the flood of things that can come back when we express it out loud. It puts you back in the power place because you are expressing, sharing that for yourself. And it makes it something that you're able to share and an experience, instead of something that has to really rule what's going on inside of your mind. Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes total sense. Coming from someone that's lost their father and almost lost a husband, I've had to deal with different sides of grief that I never thought I would at such an early age.
Absolutely.
But, the actual physical loss, someone's gone, and then a loss of what our life was going to be. I had to grieve what I thought my life was going to be like with my future husband. And it's gone. It will never be that way. It's going to be a different way.
I'm so happy that you said that, because that's something that not enough people talk about. And I'm so thrilled that you brought that up today. The grieving the loss of what could have been, or what we desired things to be.
Caregivers go through that a lot.
Yeah.
We, most of the time, there's some people that are born a certain way, but most of the time caregivers and their loved ones is bam, blink of an eye, and you become a caregiver. So it's traumatic. And then you're like, well, we had, in my case, we were 2.5 months engaged. So our whole lives were totally changed overnight when he got his cancer diagnosis. So, but go ahead and keep speaking on that if that talks to you.
Yeah, it's something that's so important. And because, like I said, so many people don't acknowledge it, that, and this can happen. I know I have some of my followers tuning in today too. This is something across any walk of life, grieving the life that maybe you thought that you were going to have, that maybe you had planned for and didn't work out in that way. That loss is just as real feeling and tangible as a physical loss of someone or of a home or something like that, but it's not acknowledged enough. So when we go through this, no matter what level of grieving it is that you're doing or what the experience is, you actually, you need to allow yourself to go through the full grieving process through it. And instead, so much of what is unfortunately projected at people is, all right, well, like, suck it up, buttercup. We got shit to do. Like, let's move forward. We got to do this. We got to show up. You don't have time to cry over the fact that your life didn't turn out the way you wanted. It's like, oh, I hate that, because it is a tangible loss and it's a grief that needs to be felt. And what happens when we suppress intense emotional feelings, whether it's grief or anger or anything that we don't allow ourselves to express and feel, when we shove that down into the little box inside of our heart or our body, wherever your particular little box lives, when we shove that down in there, it's not gone. It is compressed in a jack-in-the-box. And so the next time that same feeling comes around, it kicks over your jack-in-the-box and it explodes with not only the emotion you're having right now, but all of those suppressed feelings that you tried to let yourself not feel. And that's where it becomes more, our reaction to things becomes more explosive, more intense. And then we're like, why am I having a panic attack on the side of the highway right now? Because I heard this song that just triggered something, because your box blew open, because you've been shoving things down in there for so long. And this is why having this grief conversation about allowing yourself to grieve the loss of whatever it may be is just as important as if you were grieving the loss of a loved one or something along those lines. So I'm glad that you brought this up, Ashley. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, because to bring it full circle with self-love, because of the apparent strength I had from dealing with my father, the loss of my father, a lot of people probably assumed, oh, she's got to do this for, Troy. She's good. Did you see how strong she was when she lost her dad? On the inside, I'm like crumbling, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't show it. I was conditioned, like you said, to not, even though I had people saying, like my mom specifically, because she's been a caregiver, like, you have to go get a pedicure. I'm like, but who's gonna look at over Troy? She would constantly try to remind me, but I was too concerned. And I think Miriam brought this up yesterday. Like, if they see me doing this, what are they going to say? Like, I'm not taking care of him, but the self-love component is so needed. And I have learned over time, it wasn't an overnight thing, but self-love is so needed and necessary. And like Miriam always says, you are deserving and worthy of it. You have to. And I always like to spin off of that, what Miriam says, by saying, if I end up in the hospital because I didn't take care of myself, who's going to take care of Troy? Ain't nobody going to take care of Troy like Ashley Jackson Thompson does. Ain't nobody going to take care of Troy like me. Yeah. They can try. They might do a good job, but they ain't going to be me. So I have to take care of myself. I cannot fill up his cup if mine's empty.
Exactly. And nobody's going to take care of Ashley Jackson Thompson like Ashley Jackson Thompson can, so that she can then take care of Troy. Yep. Like, we got to take it one more step out and be like, I'm the only one who can give myself what I need to be the woman that I want to be for the people in my life. And sorry, Mary, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I only wanted to say that I am so grateful today that I love myself so much. I love myself. I'm getting goosebumps telling you guys this. I love myself so much. I bought myself flowers. Every day is Valentine's Day, but I bought myself flowers. I did a manicure, a little pedicure today, and I remind myself every day in the morning, and I tell myself, damn, you're a beautiful woman. Yeah, that's what I tell myself. And I am worthy of a beautiful life too. Yes, I am.
I love it.
So that's my self-love.
I love it. And that's so, so important. Thank you for sharing that. It's so incredible to witness a woman express her own self-love. Like, it's inspiring. I got goosebumps as you were talking about it too. And it's like, yes. And, just because, like, this popped into my head when you guys were talking, that just because you have become a caregiver and just because, yes, you have this in your life, it does not mean that you have then lost yourself, that you do not still deserve to be the priority in your own life, that you are not still worthy and deserving of everything that you desire, of feeling the way that you want to feel, of loving yourself with that intensity. And just like, it almost felt like, Miriam, when you were just talking, that you cherish yourself. Like, cherish was the word that came in. And I want all of you to cherish yourselves. And when we do, that's when we really remember to give ourselves the things that we need. And when we remember to give ourselves those things and we feel lit up and we feel loved and taken care of, for ourselves, by ourselves, that's when we get to show up. And again, we were talking yesterday about, like, We get to choose how we respond to things, and we get to choose how we show up. Choosing self-care and self-love is going to enable you to choose, I don't want to say better, but choose in a more stronger way than how you want to show up in your life as a woman, how you want to show up in your life as, and a man as well. My primary market is women, so I say woman a lot, but if there's any men watching, I am not discluding you.
It's okay.
Okay. But like, you get to choose how you then want to show up in your life. And it's really an empowering thing, choosing to, and sometimes it's going for that manicure and pedicure, Miriam, like you did today. And sometimes it's taking a nap. Sometimes it's letting Instacart.
Naps.
Same.
Oh my gosh, I love naps.
Yep. Sometimes it's letting Instacart deliver your groceries, or finding a service that's going to do the laundry for you. Sometimes it's doing the uncomfortable things we talked about yesterday that we're avoiding, like making our own doctor's appointments and making sure that we're taken care of. Because we know that in the long run, that is what's best for us. And I call it, that's the not so sexy side of self-care, because everybody loves the sexy side, right? It's like massages and pedicures and naps and perfumes and baths. And I love every single one of those freaking things. Don't get me wrong. However, the not so sexy side of self-care, like paying bills and making phone calls and going to the doctors and setting boundaries, which can be really difficult sometimes. And I definitely want to make sure that we come back to that a little bit, especially when it's a person we need to set boundaries against, or not against, but with ourselves for. The not so sexy side is actually just as important for self-care as the other side, because usually the not so sexy stuff is what's building into that anxiety foundation we talked about yesterday, which then spirals out, which then keeps us from thinking we deserve the baths and all of the other things.
I'm so glad you brought that point up, because, paying bills and, doing your taxes and, etc. All that stuff does build into anxious feelings in other places. So because I haven't gotten this part of my day or life situated, I don't feel like I deserve that bubble bath or to go get a pedicure type thing. So
Yep.
I like how you pointed that out, because that is a part of self-care.
It is. But you still deserve the bubble bath, even if you didn't pay the bills that day, because you know what? They're going to go in your brain dump list at night, and you're going to make sure you take care of it tomorrow.
Yeah,
like that whole with, and this is something, deservingness has been something I've been focusing on a lot lately. It's something that I actually struggled with for a really, really long time. Still, again, with my amazing therapist, we're working on figuring out where it came from. But sometimes it doesn't matter where things come from. You just need to sort it out in the moment. But deservingness, and I know a lot of women struggle with that worthiness and deservingness part, for one reason or another. And you are worthy and deserving of the things that bring you joy, no matter how much you did during the day. There is no amount of things that you have to do to qualify to take a nap. But so often, again, sometimes it's when we put that cape on that we feel like that comes with, all of these things that we're supposed to be doing, we should be doing. Oh man, I didn't do those, which means, or I cried today. So, okay, well, I got to beat myself up for that instead because I showed emotion, and I got to rally and pull it back together. No. However you need to show up at any point of your day and at any point in your life is right, because we are designed to feel the full gamut. Absolutely,
Yeah,
Miriam.
Absolutely. When Martin, my husband, sometimes asks me, Miriam, can you help me with this or that? And I have scheduled that time for myself. It's my self-care moment. Now I'm able to say, no, hon, as much as I love you, this is my self-care moment. This is my me moment. I can help you at another time. It took me months, maybe years, to be able to say no without hurting anybody else.
Yes.
It didn't happen overnight. It took me months. I simply couldn't get no out of my mouth. It was very difficult. It wasn't easy. But
Yeah.
now I'm able to do it.
Of course. I mean, we're, again, conditioned through society, through the things that we're thrust into, through whatever, that we, you know, especially as, and this is definitely a lot stronger for women, but that we are supposed to make sure everybody else is taken care of first, right? Like, we're on the back burner because, you know, we've got jobs and bosses and kids and boyfriends and husbands and mothers and all of these things that we're supposed to be taking care of, supposed to and should. Oh, I'm really glad this just popped into my head right now, because this wasn't part of what I wanted to talk about today. However, I did want to touch on self-talk. And as you're starting to pay more attention to, like we talked about yesterday, the way that you speak to yourself, when it's the nasty girl, all those things, pay really close attention to when the words should and supposed to start sliding into your mental vocabulary, because that is fueled by shame and pressure, and not at all by what it is that you actually desire or feel good doing. You know, when we say, oh man, okay, well, I should do this and I should do this, we never really say should with like a positive like force behind it. It usually feels like something that we have fallen short on, or something that we need to do in order to like qualify to sit down and rest for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Should is a very shame-filled word, and that's going to be a really good indicator of where some of your anxiety leaks are. Those things that you're shoulding all over yourself about, if you will.
So, you know, sometimes, Stephanie, I ask fellow caregivers, do you know a hospital in the world that has 24/7 service? Name me one. There's no hospital in the world. No hospital, no nurse will be at your bed for 24/7. Why do we feel like we should?
Mm-hmm. Think about it. Everybody else gets to do things in shifts, you know, like everybody else. Go ahead, Ashley.
You know, I think, I don't know what it is about the difference between someone that does it as an occupation versus the family caregiver, right? You know, as a family caregiver, you're not being paid. I mean, there's ways that you can figure out how to within your specific state, but more so, you're not getting paid. And then two, you're, you know, made to feel like you're supposed to be there 24/7, right? And I don't know where this notion came from, because it's not reality. You literally have to go take care of stuff for yourself, and to put that type of responsibility and weight on your own shoulders, we have to release it. You know, let's do that thing that Stephanie taught us yesterday. You know, you just have to, you know, get it all tight and then release it. You have to. We can't do it all by ourselves, and we shouldn't be made to.
No.
I read something interesting yesterday. When you go to a restaurant or even at home and you have dinner, breakfast, lunch, when you're full, you stop eating, right? Why do we want to carry so much? We overload our shoulders. It's full. When you're eating and you're full, you stop eating. But we keep putting more and more and more and more on our shoulders.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Ashley, did you
And
see that the comment that Tanya had just?
yeah, I was just about to put that up here.
I thought that was so important to share. I wanted to make sure we saw it.
Oh yes, yes. So And Miss Tanya, I didn't know you were an RN. Thank you for all the work that you do. But Tanya says that she's a registered nurse by trade and has been a personal caregiver, and it is very different. Tanya, if you don't mind, since you have that background of both, could you give me a quick example in the comments of how you feel is different? Because I can tell from my perspective, like, for instance, RNs, doctors, they get to go home. I have to go home with the patient. I don't get a 8-hour, 10-hour break from the person. I have to take them to the treatment, surgery, whatever, and then I have to sit with them at home. So I don't get a break. There's no break. That's the biggest thing for me as a personal caregiver. I'm sure that's the biggest difference, but I'm curious to see what other differences there may be. Thank you, Tanya.
And that break that you're talking, it's you have to. This is where that the boundary comes in, right? Because you have to designate the breaks for yourself. Miriam, you've talked a couple times and I love it about how you have your self-care time scheduled into your day. And if anybody asks anything, it's, nope, because I will get, we'll do this when I have a chance in a little while. But right now, this is what I have scheduled for me. And, we live in such an immediate gratification sort of world these days that we can often feel like it's like, I got to answer that text when it comes in. Oh man, I missed the phone call. I got to get right back. I have to jump when somebody says jump. And it's like, no,
Guilty.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same girl. It's a whole deconditioning thing we have to go through in order to change the script,
I love that you brought that up. I'm working on trying to unplug my phone, my laptop. I'm trying for half a day, just start with half a day to have some extra time for myself and my husband as well. I'm trying, it's difficult, but I have to try. You're so busy. You're busy the whole day with looking at your phone, looking at your screen. It's sometimes it's overwhelming. Absolutely.
Definitely. And being that like connected to everything is actually an energy leak and a drain within itself, because you're constantly engaging, whether you're actively participating in a conversation online or not. When you're consuming content or, chewing popcorn, watching people fight in the comments over something, like whatever it may be, you're still engaging with that. And it is still a drain in itself, Ashley, I know, did you want to share the comment that just came up?
Yes, I do. So Tanya says, as an RN, I care for my patients greatly, but I can leave that emotional toll at work most of the time, since she's done palliative care. So palliative care is hospice, right? Is that hospice? Tanya, help me out. But at home, I'm all invested all the time, even when not at the bedside of my loved one. That's so true, because, I've heard nurses say that they love a certain patient or whatever, but I'm sure that love, thank you, Tanya. But I'm sure that love stops at a certain point, because they do get to go home, but that person that, is their loved one, that might, someone that they grew up with, or it was their mom, dad, brother, husband, wife, whatever, it's a whole different investment, because you are like all in plus some. You're giving your all to that person. So I can definitely see how she stated that's the difference for sure. I do know a hospice nurse. I'm going to ask her to join us maybe in the near future, if not tomorrow, to talk about that as well. But thank you, Tanya. I appreciate you commenting and sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely. it's great to get that that extra perspective of, you know, someone kind of have been on both sides of things, I'm sure. Yeah, that's really, and this is, you know, it comes down to boundaries where, you know, if you burn out as a nurse or in your profession, like, you know, there's sick days built into that. There's, you know, and you're able to sort of take some time there for that. There's no sick days built into when you're a caregiver. And yeah.
I jokingly told Troy one day when he was at treatment, I said, you know what, I'm going to take a sick day. Can you get an Uber home?
That's awesome.
And he just gave me this look like, don't you leave me here at this hospital. But, you know, that's right. You're so right. There's no kind of sick days when it comes to caregiving.
No. So
unless you got the Rona, but, you know, that's whole separate.
It's a whole thing in itself. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so you have to be the one that sets the boundaries, and you have to decide. And again, sometimes when you're looking at sort of the way that your life is, right, and the way that you have things in that box in front of you, it can be hard to look at that and see anything other than, well, I don't have time. There's nothing. There's always something that can shift, even if it's just a fraction of an inch at a time. And I mean, I am the queen of baby steps. I am obsessed with small movements that make a larger impact, because when we try to do anything in like a 0 to 60 sort of manner, it doesn't work. We are not able to maintain, you know, the same conversation. I used to work as a health coach. And so I would talk to my clients as that before I got into this, and they'd be like, all right, cool. So tomorrow morning, all right, I'm going to eat 100% on my meal plan. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to drink a gallon of water a day. And I'm like, girlfriend, no, you're not. I love you. And I'm your number one cheerleader. And I'm going to support you till the cows come home. But it is too jarring of a change to try to do anything cold turkey, especially everything. So when you're looking at your day and your life and your schedule, and you're like, all right, well, I have to change it all because this isn't working, we don't do it because it gets overwhelming. And then we fall right back into whatever consistent rut behavior, whatever it is that we have started. So taking a look at your day and asking, like, what's my 1%? What is the 1% that I can do for myself to, you know, to set a time boundary or to make sure that I'm taking care of myself? You know, the 1% is a lot easier to fit into than, you know, how do I change our entire schedule to try to make sure that I'm doing all the things? It's just not going to happen. And I say that with so much love to everybody who, I mean, I'm the queen of that. Like, I want to go gung ho of like, all right, cool, we're going to do it all. No, we're not. It's not sustainable, you know?
No, and baby steps are also steps.
Yes.
I always say, walk before you run.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, yes, I totally got it. No, you don't.
No. No. It is so important. And I love it. And there's this great image that actually one of my clients brought to a session the other day, which was, I love when my clients bring stuff to me and like show visuals and things. And it's it's like a sketch, and it's 2 ladders and 2 different guys. And it actually says something along the lines of like, baby steps are also steps or something like that. One of the ladder has evenly spaced normal rungs, and one of them has these giant gaps between each rung. And you're watching the guy with the little steps be able to progressively go so much further and faster than the guy who's trying to throw himself at the next rung. Maybe grabs it for a hot second, but then you have to use your entire body weight to pull you up to it, and then you fall off. Like, it's not that consistency happens with the smaller steps, because once you start, the really cool thing is paying attention to the ripple effect that happens. That 1% is going to start to infiltrate over here, is going to ripple out over here. And the people in your life are going to start responding to your boundaries. And boundaries can be difficult because I know, Miriam, you mentioned feeling like it was so hard to say no without feeling selfish. And sometimes when we set boundaries, there are people that push back against them. But the only people who are going to get upset about you setting a boundary are those who were benefiting from you not having them. I'm gonna let that one just sit for a hot second. The only people who get upset about you setting a boundary are those who benefited from you not having them. And a lot of times these end up being people who we care a lot about in our lives and who care a lot about us. But when you change the game for people, they get uncomfortable. They get scared. They lash out because they don't understand why things are changing, why you're changing, and this ties back into yesterday's where we talked about how someone responds to you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So if someone gets upset about a boundary, that's not a reflection on you. That's something that maybe we triggered in them, but that's not your responsibility to own. And go ahead.
I love that what you're saying. When my brother had a stroke, I was in the hospital every single day with him. And at a certain point, I was so exhausted. So what I did is I explained why I couldn't visit him every day anymore. Once again, he had a stroke, so it was difficult for him to understand why I couldn't visit him. It's not that I didn't want to. So it took me a while to explain so he could understand why I needed to take care of myself and that I also had my husband at home. So communication, that's what I'm saying. Communication is very important. And when I told him that the reason why I couldn't visit is that if I took better care of myself, I could be with him every other day instead of not taking care of myself and couldn't visit him for a week. And he was like, no, take care of yourself. Please take care of yourself. So explain why communication is so important.
Yes, communication is everything. And there may still be instances in which people get upset or don't understand. And if that does happen, I love that this was such a positive interaction you had with your brother. And I want to just make sure that we mention the flip side, because I know that not everybody may have had those really positive interactions, that if someone's still not understanding, if someone is still fighting back against you, it's not your responsibility to force them to understand what you need. And that's a hard one to sit and own sometimes. Ashley, I'm living for your reactions right now.
I am about to tear off and do a church run. I don't know where to go though. Oh my gosh, the fire that's coming out. Whoa.
Yeah. And these are things
not my responsibility to get them to get my boundaries.
No. Wow. Your only responsibility is to yourself. That's it.
Wow.
Yep. Because I've put myself in this situation a number of times, especially in that old job where, we used to go in late, but sitting in the parking lot because we were miserable. I would make myself crazy trying to convince other people and show them why I needed what I needed when it wasn't being respected over and over and over again. And you don't have to do that, and sometimes it does require making a hard change if your boundaries are continually not being respected. And, that's a bridge you cross when you get to it. But to remember that it's not your responsibility to make someone else see. It's not. And I know that that's a hard pill to swallow and a hard thing to sit with sometimes. But it's true. And these are why I love having these conversations and getting to yeah, just kind of like bring more of this stuff to the light, because like I said, Ashley, I'm living for your reactions, and I'm like, I really hope that there's some other people hearing this and knowing, like, maybe like feeling and reacting the same way. Like, I just want everyone to know that it's not your responsibility to force someone else to see what you need. You know, you are the end be all authority in that.
Self-love, loving yourself
Yeah.
can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know we've probably mentioned this before, but your lack of boundaries, what does that look like when someone is continually knocking on your door, wanting your time, wanting your space, wanting your energy? Can you speak on what that eventually could look like? And I know it's not cookie cutter, but what could that eventually look like?
I'm muted. Sorry. And like you said, it's not cookie cutter, but sometimes, and this is the really hard part of boundaries and self-respect and self-love, sometimes it ends up leading to that person or that situation or that place no longer being a welcome and active part of your life. And I know that that's hard, which is why, it's all about baby steps, because you want to hope that whoever it is that you're trying to set the boundary with here will eventually figure out, okay, I'm being too pushy, I'm crossing the line. Like, they'll get the message. And most people do. Most people get the message, where what I kind of just said is like the worst case scenario, when we have to remove someone from our daily interactions, or sort of take some more like finalized steps there. And it's really up to you to decide. It's up to you to decide where the line is, and this is why even boundaries happening in baby steps can be really helpful for the person setting the boundaries. So I'm not even necessarily talking about the person who's violating the boundaries. Like, you hope they're going to get the freaking message as we continue to roll forward here. But it's really difficult to go from 0 to 60 with a boundary too. I had an example with a client a couple months ago who, it was a family member who was constantly just steamrolling over boundaries. Like, there was no tiptoeing. It was like driving a car through the wall over these boundaries over and over and over again. And she only got the strength to do what she needed to do in the end by starting small with the boundaries and building up. So first it was, here's the times that you can reach out. Those were violated. Okay, well, now here is the only number that you can use because you have been blocked on the other one. Again, steamroller, car through the wall. And, so that's a very isolated event. Like I said, most people they get the message and they're going to roll around your boundaries and things. But setting smaller boundaries will help you feel stronger and more grounded in them, to ultimately make the decisions that you have to make for what's right to you, even if they're hard,
Yes. And I also would like to bring up and mention that it doesn't matter. It could be anybody. It could be your mama, your daddy, your child, your cousin, the post office delivery person. It could be anybody. If you need to set that boundary, it's got to be done. Toxicity is toxic, clearly. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, here's the boundary. If you continually cross the line, you're just not going to be a part of my life anymore. I'm a huge advocate for that. I used to say, oh, that's family. That's family. You don't do this or that with. If you're causing me strife and anxiety, hey, I don't want to end up in the hospital. I've been into too many hospitals with my husband. I don't want to go to any for myself.
No, I'm so glad that you said this, Ashley, because I'm sitting over here like fist pumping the air, and now it's my turn to react back to you, because that's so important. I don't care who the person is. I mean, technically, if you depending on what theory you have of evolution and creation and all of that, we're all related, you know, depending on how you look at it. So everybody's your freaking cousin. And so, you know, there's this projection of, and like you said, the way that you used to think too, like, oh, well, it's family, you know, it's my auntie, it's my mom, it's whatever it is. So I gotta be nice. I gotta put a good face on. I gotta make sure. No, you do not, because they are a human. The same way that your postal man is a human. You can love family from a distance. Yes. Oh my God. I love
Mama
that.
J with the fire.
Oh
I
my
wish
God.
I had like clapping applause, you know, sound.
Exactly.
So true.
You are not required to keep someone if you're in your life, if they are toxic for you, just because they have a particular title in your life. It means nothing. It means nothing if they are not good for you. Oof. Yeah, this is a good one. Thank you for bringing that up, Ashley. I appreciate it.
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, that goes into self-love too, because more often than not, like you yourself can make yourself feel unloved. But more often than not, you can get those feelings from your closest family members.
Yeah.
The ones that are supposed to be loving and protecting you, they can be doing the most damage as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a part of the self-love is figuring those boundaries out, like you said, because the lack of boundaries could be a trigger, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I love how all of this does it rolls and ties into each other, because sometimes the energy leak or the lack of the boundary is the trigger. So then we're talking about, ooh, okay, so that triggers to my anxiety, which could be alleviated by this. And then that's alleviated when I love myself a little bit more over here. And like all this stuff, it's not linear. You know, this self-love, this self-care, this boundaries journey, this growth that you're doing, it's a ping pong ball in a circle, you know, it's going to go everywhere and everything's connected.
Yeah. And I think it also has to do with knowing your worth.
Yes. Absolutely. And oh man. And when we're saying things like worth and deservingness and when those things are coming up, if you're listening and that's like got a little something going in your stomach, if you're getting uncomfortable with those things, that's a good indication that may be somewhere that you need to dive into for yourself. And, you know, with a therapist, with a coach, I don't always, for the bigger things, I don't always like recommend friends, because our friends are not, you know, automatically designed to be our therapist. If you've got something going on, bringing that to someone outside of your support system and bringing someone else in is one of the best things that you could do, so that you can keep the relationships in your life as the friendships that they are. And this, you know, and I love this part of the conversation too, where I personally believe everyone on the planet needs a therapist or a coach or like some sort of support system somewhere. And, you know, there's a lot of shame around mental health and around therapy and, you know, all of these things. And it's getting a little better, but there is sometimes a little bit of a stigma attached. And I have made it my life's mission to erase that stigma around mental health and around reaching out for health and support and speaking your truth and your journey. And if you know that you need a little bit of that support, if you know that that's something that is going to be a self-love act for you, like when we've been having these conversations here, please reach out to someone. Please reach out for your own support, because you are not designed to do this alone. And just because you may be a caregiver and you may, you know, be in this position, it still doesn't mean that you have to do it by yourself at all.
I love that you say this, because asking for help was always a big problem for me.
Yeah.
And you have to ask for help. You can't do it alone. I couldn't. And asking for help, I also had to learn that wasn't easy, because I thought that they would think that I'm weak, that I couldn't take care of my husband.
Oh, that is such an important point. Thank you for saying that, because I'm sure, I know that probably used to feel very heavy for you. And, maybe even owning it right now still has a little bit attached to that, but that's important. It is so important, because we do get so concerned about what everyone else is thinking, when really one of my favorite things about humanity is that we're all pretty focused on ourselves. So we're all worried about what other people are going to think about us. We, about this or that or the other thing. There may be like an initial reaction that somebody has to something, but then they're right back on themselves. I mean, we are very, very, like, as a species, like, blinders on, kind of self-focused on our own experience here. And that's a really freeing thing to remember sometimes, is that, okay, yeah, maybe somebody's going to say something nasty or talk about it for like a second, and then they're going to go right back to worrying about their own lives. And like, there's something freeing there to remember, I don't know. I kind of like reminding myself of that sometimes when I get really caught up in what are they going to think? What are they going to say? They might say something, and then they're going to get wrapped back up in their own world. So, but yeah, Ashley, I saw you had unmuted before. Did you have something you wanted to say? I don't know if you...
Oh, you know what? Sometimes I think I'm in Clubhouse and I'm Miriam. I think I'm clapping. I'm just going, Don't mind me. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I just want to make sure that you have the floor.
No, I literally thought I was in Clubhouse for a second there. Don't mind me.
It's totally fine. That's funny. Oh man, that took a lot of getting used to in Clubhouse. Like, how do I tell someone they're great? Hit the mute button. But then I don't do it enough times, and I don't remute at the end, and I'm like, crap. So, yeah, that's a fun little Clubhouse story. So, is there? So I know we've been going about an hour. Is there anything that you ladies have that you want to touch a little bit more on? That anything that I want to make sure I kind of address, anything that you guys had really wanted to make sure you brought up today. Anything else that we could roll into?
I a self-love tip. Something I did myself and I still do is I started writing 10 things about myself that I love. Some things I love about myself. And the first 3 things, it was so difficult for me to find 3 things in the beginning. So start with that. Start with 5, not 10. Start with 5 things you love about yourself and write them down. Just 5. And also 5 things that you're grateful for. Just 5. Start with those things. It won't be easy. It wasn't easy for me. I had a lot of things that were not easy, but I didn't give up. I kept trying. And I tried to master one thing at a time. Baby steps are steps too.
Yeah. I love that. A really powerful way to extend or expand upon that activity when you write down that list of things that you love about yourself is to actually record yourself saying those things out loud. And then saving it in your voice notes. And actually, I think it was someone had commented about the 21 days to form a habit in the comments I saw over there.
Yes, that was my mother. She's coming with the fire today.
Yep. There we go. Yeah. So if you record yourself saying these things to yourself, and I mean, this is like a 15-second activity. If you've got a list of 5 or 10 things, right? Listen to that every morning. We're talking 10 seconds out of your day. Listen to that every morning and notice how you start to change the way that you feel, because we are our voice is one of the most powerful things. I've said this a couple of times that, activating your voice, speaking your truth, sharing these things with yourself in this way is a really, really powerful way to start to view yourself in a different light. And so, Miriam, when you were talking about how it was difficult for you to do in the beginning, If anyone is just starting off with this, do the recording and then listen to your own voice telling you the things that you love about yourself, telling you the things that make you wonderful and unique and powerful, or whatever it is that you want to put on this list. But listen to yourself say it for 21 days. And it's going to make a world of a difference, I promise you. So that is, so much with self-love and self-care. And we've definitely touched on so many things in that today. Oh, I love it. And there are some, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything over here for today. We've kind of infused self-talk throughout like yesterday and today, and there's going to be more of that too. So that's more of like a arching theme, I think.
Stephanie, I remember that you said something about, is it power posing?
Yes. Oh, that wasn't on this list. That was on the other list. Thank you for saying that. Oh, I love power posing. So yesterday we made funny faces and did crazy things with our shoulders and our hands. And so today, power posing is a super powerful. We're just going to use the same words over and over again. Powerful activity to do for yourself. So there's been studies done on this. So this is in a lot of like the confidence building conversations that are out there. But doing this power pose, which is basically, ironically enough, standing like a superwoman, or a superhero, actually inflates your confidence, gives you more of, it's a very, very grounding activity too, because you're activating your whole body in it. And I will get up and show you guys in a second what I'm talking about. But this is something awesome to do before you, maybe before you're making like one of those phone calls that's just like causing you a ridiculous amount of anxiety, or before going into an appointment, before walking into a room that you just know, maybe it's even the room of your loved one that it might be, you're feeling a little bit emotional, a little bit scattered that day. Take a minute and do a power pose and get yourself like, getting your body and your brain, and it sets the tone and the intention for, again, just power, right? The groundedness and you taking control of how you want to feel for the interaction that you are about to go have. And so I wonder how this is we'll figure this out here. So what you do, you stand up. I don't even think you're gonna be able to see my whole body here, but so your feet are hips width apart and you're standing, and you are literally, we're gonna put this up here because this is actually the important part. Your hands are here, shoulders back, chest out, and you are power posing like a superhero. And lost my chair. Okay. And you are standing in that power pose with, again, chest out, shoulders up, your chin up too, super important. And your feet are hips width apart, which is a really, really grounding way to stand. It's very like, your body is rooted in that particular moment. And you're just breathing in that space. Maybe those like the deep breaths we talked about yesterday, the in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just breathing and staying there, looking up towards the sky, elongating your neck and your spine, and doing that for 1 to 2 minutes. Or if you only have 10 seconds, do it then too. It's still going to help change the game for you a little bit. But optimal is like, do it for a minute if you can. And maybe even infusing some of the, like Mary and me were talking about the list of all the things you love about yourself, or a list of the I am statements of the ways that you want to feel, or the ways that you want to interact with whatever you're about to do here. I am a powerful, confident woman. I am able to handle whatever is thrown at me. I am fucking spectacular. I don't know, whatever you want to put in there for language. And the power posing, the activation of the body, the breathing, and then the mental component, it's like 1 minute of the most like juiced up personal steroid that you could like give yourself to feel better, to feel more powerful in the moment. So thank you for bringing that up, Miriam. I love that one. I do that literally before I call the doctors, because that's always a really stressful thing for me is making appointments and doing those things. So I power pose before I get on the phone or before I pay my bills, because it helps to melt away the anxiety of the thing you're about to do and replace it with confidence and power. So definitely a really, really powerful activity. Yay. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm glad. I almost forgot to say it today, just like yesterday. So thank you. Ashley,
yeah, that's awesome. Definitely something easy to implement.
Yeah. Did you have anything, else rolling around for you today that we could touch on?
Yeah, actually, Miriam actually touched on it already, but I was going to ask people to describe themselves in a loving way using 3 positive words. But, Miriam stepped it up and said 5. So,
and then I told people to record themselves. So we're just building on building on building.
We're just going on, but yeah, definitely just starting out by confessing your own love for yourself is a great starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does. The same way we talked about yesterday, how we spend more time talking to ourselves than we ever will any other person on the planet. Why would we also not take that time to make sure that we are giving love to ourselves, in a way, because we're going to receive it from ourselves more so than we ever could from anybody else combined on the planet. It's, I don't want to say responsibility because there's a heavy weight with that, but it's your responsibility to love yourself and to, start to pay attention and have that self-awareness and set those boundaries around the things that are just sucking the ever-loving life out of you, because you were not designed to feel that way all the time.
I love that. Absolutely. So thank you so much for today, Stephanie. Can you give us a sneak peek of tomorrow?
Yes, I'm excited for, I don't shut up about being excited about this whole experience, but I'm super excited for tomorrow because I think it's going to be really helpful, especially for some of the things that have come up already. But we're going to be talking about the anxiety and like the what ifing. So the unknown, the what ifs that we can kind of lose ourselves in, especially I know you both have shared interactions and stories with me about those moments for you personally. So I'm really excited to go a little bit deeper with some ways to help, anyone who's listening manage the anxiety and the fear that comes up in those moments a little bit more. So uncertainty, the what ifs, we're going to be doing, talking a little bit more about grounding, which I started talking about today with the power posing, and how grounding can help to alleviate the anxiety symptoms in your body. And then because we follow the flow, whatever else comes up.
Right.
I'm so excited for tomorrow.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you so very much. And for you all, please follow us on Instagram. I've got it scrolling there at the bottom. You can find us on Facebook and Clubhouse at Timeless Dream, Clubhouse at Miriam Baldwin. And I think, Stephanie, what's your handle?
Mine is, so take out my middle name. Mine's just Stephanie Bearce on all one word. Unfortunately, there was a cap on letters and I was upset because now it doesn't match all of my other handles.
I know. I had to take off events on my Clubhouse, but that's okay.
Yep.
So definitely follow us where you, do your most social media to keep getting updates on what we are doing. Have a very happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Remember, Valentine's Day, even if you're single, can be for you. Okay? You have to love yourself before you can love on other people. And one last thing I want to bring up, since I just came on that topic of self-love at the end here. Be sure you can still grab your Treat Yourself self-love box at timelessdreamevents.com. So please, If you have a caregiver in your life that needs a little extra loving, you want some extra loving for yourself, you want to give it to, your loved one, whoever, you can find one still and purchase. You'll actually get a one-on-one talk with Miss Miriam here, and several other coaches are involved, plus the 5 Love Languages book and self-care journal, amongst many other things in the box. So visit www.timelessdreamevents.com if you would love to snag one last Valentine's Day gift for you or a loved one. And I am going to sign out now. So thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Stephanie, for your time. Until tomorrow, ladies.
Thank you so much. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.